Thanks to everyone for being here. Gorgeous Friday morning. Thanksgiving's 2 weeks away. How many people can believe that? Not me. All right, well, as usual, we want to give a little quick intro. So we're celebrating our 11th year of these events and being online and LinkedIn. Sorry, don't mean to turn my back on you clapping. So yeah, 11 years, hard to believe, right? If by show of hands, was anybody at the original Queenie Park event? Nice, thank you for being here. It's kind of fun to think how big the groups come, and it all has to do with all of you, and most importantly, getting here, building relationships, learning, and growing. And none of it would be possible without our sponsors. So we have a few sponsors in the room today. Mike from La Pata Fliegel back here. Dave from Parkside. Where you at, Dave? Here we go, right up front. And it's Brittany. Couldn't remember that one. Thanks you for being here, Brittany. Let's see, from Atomic, we've got Ramondo in the back with the camera. And then where's Grant? Yeah, thanks for being here. We got Jason from Swift Systems over here running the technology. Tom from Black Twig, blue in the back. Jamie from CMA, turquoise in the front. We'll call you out by color. Paul from Pulsanelli sends his regrets. He had a client closing and couldn't be here today. And Matt from Scarin. Where you at, Matt? Over here by the window. Thanks for being here. So without them, none of this would be possible. So they're the folks that help pay for the lodge, help pay for the food, the chairs you're sitting in, bringing the speakers and the whole deal. So if we could give them all a round of applause, please. And then lastly, there is a table in the back with all of the sponsor information. So please feel free to walk by. There's some good information back there. Please help support them if you can, please. And then we do have a special guest, a handsome man in a black vest, Mike over here. Mike Eaton. Mike, can you stand up for a second? Mike's with the Missouri Association of Manufacturers. So even though they're all the way over in Springfield, Missouri, and we're over here in St. Louis, Missouri, we are always looking for ways that we can partner together. So another great manufacturing organization. Thanks for being here, Mike. Okay, on to the program. I do not have a dad joke. Do you have a dad joke?
I don't.
Okay, no, we don't have a dad joke today. I apologize. Does anybody have a good dad joke?
Put my glasses on just to be clear.
I love it. All right, great. That's a good one. Okay, so we have a special guest today in our speaker, Margaret Onken. She's the Chief Engagement Officer for Greater St. Louis, an alliance of business and civic leaders providing the vision and strategy for fostering inclusive economic growth over the next decade. In her role, Margaret is responsible for the organization's annual revenue, the design and implementation of an active investor engagement program, and special projects that drive the organization's mission forward. Prior to her role at GSL, Margaret was Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations at Maryville University. While at Maryville, Margaret increased donations by 40%, developed a digital alumni engagement team, established a government relations program, and spearheaded the university's entrance into the workforce ecosystem. Margaret also served as executive director of the Hawthorne Foundation, a public-private partnership with the Missouri Department of Economic Development. In that capacity, she oversaw business attraction efforts for the state, including Governor Nixon's international trade mission work, serving on delegations that visited Israel, Dubai, Europe, Colombia, and Cuba, among other countries. Ms. Onken was also Governor Nixon's financial director, raising a record $33 million for statewide elections. Wow, that's a slip of the tongue, huh? Wow. Good morning. Goodness gracious. Let's try that again. Might need a minute after that mistake. So, raising a record $33 million for statewide elections. She has also worked with organizations as varied as Opera Theater of St. Louis Ballet, and Great Rivers Greenway. So, please don't let the slip of the tongue distract us from Margaret Onken.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me on a beautiful Friday morning. As Tom said, I'm Margaret Onken. I'm the Chief Engagement Officer at Greater St. Louis, Inc. We are coming to the end of our third year. We're finishing our junior year. So I always like to kind of start off with that so that we level set. We've only been around for about 3 years, and I'm going to talk about how we came to be here in just a second. But I want to start by telling you that my family is a manufacturing family. My father had a company that he gave to my brother and now to my niece. They make extruding, feeding, and cutting equipment for companies like Purina and Lifesaver, and it's based in Canton, Ohio. And so my heart is with the manufacturers. So really appreciate you being here today. And you are a key part of the future of this metro over the next decade, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. I always like starting off with some really, really great news. So if you haven't heard, St. Louis is resurgent. We have come out of the pandemic stronger than we went in. And again, only 3 years here in the market, trying to right the ship. We've had some really significant wins. So I'll start with Boeing. Just in the last few weeks, Boeing announced a $2 billion investment in North St. Louis County. Boeing Defense is based here, but this was not a foregone conclusion. We had to compete for this deal. We competed aggressively. Business attraction and retention is one of our core responsibilities here in St. Louis, and we were successful. I'm going to talk a little bit later about some other happenings at the airport, but $2 billion from Boeing. NASCAR, has anyone been to the NASCAR Cup Series? So this was a very unique business attraction deal that we worked on. The owner of the raceway over in St. Clair County called and said, hey, we have this really, really cool opportunity. The NASCAR Cup Series is owned by a family, interestingly enough. They were looking to expand their series and looking for a market to enter into. We, the business community, came together with our professional sports teams, the ownership teams there. So the DeWitt family, the Taylor family, the ownership team of the Blues, to sit down with this family and say, hey, St. Louis is a great place to do business. You need to come here. We won that deal. It's been 100,000 people coming to St. Louis for the last 2 races, 2 years in a row. Sleeping in hotel beds, eating in restaurants downtown. Really, really significant deal for downtown and the Metro East Side. American Food Group, this is the 5th largest beef processing company in the country. They are building an $800 million facility in Warren County, so Wright City on your way to Innsbruck, 1,600 jobs. What is interesting here to me is that the investment that this company, also family owned, is making in Warren County has significant ripple effects, and I'm also going to talk about this a little bit as we go through the presentation. The $800 million grows when you think about the taxes that this company is going to be paying to support the fire department, the police department, the school districts in Warren County. There's a philanthropic element here. American Foods Group just made a $2 million pledge to the Wright City schools for a new football stadium. They're bringing population, so they have home developments, housing developments going up for these folks that are going to be moving to Warren County. So when you talk about these really big projects, their numbers are big to begin with. But when you expand that out and look at how it impacts their larger community and then the metro as a whole, it's huge. It's huge. Lastly, Lufthansa. This is the first nonstop transatlantic flight to Europe in over 20 years. Has anyone been on the Lufthansa flight? I haven't either. It's supposed to be fabulous, though. It's 3 days a week. We're 95% full, coming and going, 95% full. The Lufthansa leadership team was so impressed with that they invited us out to their global board meeting to talk about the St. Louis story. How did we do this? It was a public-private partnership. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later too, but we worked with our elected officials and government entities, put some skin in the game to make that deal possible. 95% full. The only reason we're not running 5 days a week is because they don't have the planes and the pilots to staff it. So pretty great story. I got one more piece of good news here before we dive in. St. Louis was ranked the 20th fastest growing startup hub in the world. In the world. So we can talk about, we can talk about big deals like American Food Group and Boeing, critically important, but the startup ecosystem, small businesses are critically important to the future growth of the metro. This matters, and this helps when you talk about talent. How do we get these smart young people to choose St. Louis? These are the types of headlines that really stick out for them and make them give us a look. So really, really important to what we're trying to accomplish here. Let's talk a little bit about how we got here. Am I standing in front of the slides? About how we got here, who we are. When the pandemic hit, the 5 civic organizations up here, the Regional Chamber, Civic Progress, those 3 others, came together to say, okay, folks, how do we get ourselves organized and come out of this mess stronger than we came into it? And so we looked at best-in-class organizations around the country, similarly sized metros, so Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, even Des Moines, to see how they were doing it. These are regions with growing GDPs, growing populations. And all of them had an umbrella organization that drove all economic development for those metro regions. So I get up every day and I tell people I am there to create, attract, and retain jobs. And I have a piece of that. I don't do all of it myself, but all of us at Greater St. Louis Inc. take a piece of those 3 things, creating, attracting, and retaining jobs, and put it all together under one umbrella. There's one quarterback now for people to call when there are jobs on the line. And this is relevant if you think back to the Amazon headquarter hoopla that happened a few years back. They were announcing that they were going to open a new, quadrillion, billion investment somewhere and go compete for it. The next day in the newspaper, the Post-Dispatch headline was, "Who's in charge?" So there was no one that was going to take the lead on something like this, and it turned out that you had 3 proposals submitted to Amazon, all from within the St. Louis MSA. And that's when you have regions like Denver showing up as 1 proposal and 1 MSA, or Columbus, 1 proposal from 1 MSA, winning these big deals. So we came together on January 1, 2021, as a merged civic organization, an alliance of business and civic leaders, as Tom noted, united around an agenda of inclusive economic growth. We are an economic development organization for the 15 counties within the metropolitan area. Those are 8 counties in Illinois and 7 counties in Missouri. So I'll take just a breath here and see if anyone has any questions on that. Kind of run through stuff. Okay. So we operate from a jobs plan. This is the first map that this metro has had in over 10 years. We have 5 strategic priorities within that plan. We're going to talk about some of that today. The core, our urban center, is foundational to the success of the metro. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Making sure that we have the talent that you all need to grow and prosper is critically important. Small businesses are the future of the metro. We just were talking with 20 of our local and regional chambers yesterday and their members about how they impact the growth of the metro. Next gen industries, I'm going to focus on that a little bit. And again, everything is guided by that North Star. Inclusive growth. It takes all of us here over the next decade to succeed. We're all in it together, so let's figure out how we all start from the same starting point and move forward. So how do we measure that growth? I'm going to pull out my notes here. We spent 6 months working on benchmarks, working with over 60 partners to develop the goals we're headed for. Where are we trying to get to? We have 4 North Star metrics: population growth, GDP growth, household income growth and home ownership rates. The last two, we need to close some disparity gaps between black and white St. Louisans, so that will be critically important over the next decade. I would encourage you to check out the website. It's huge. There's a ton of data in there, but it's also a living, breathing platform. So as you see projects happening around the metro against 15 counties, it's hard to keep track of all of that. We're asking people to add to it. So when you're looking for what is happening in the region and how we are doing as a whole, this is where you're going to find it. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And I'm sorry that I'm right here in the... So how do we compete on the global stage? I'm going to talk about some very specific instances and then talk more broadly about these industry sectors. So business attraction is one of our key priorities here. We are the business attraction and business retention arm for the metropolitan region. So we have a team that goes out marketing St. Louis around the globe, talking with companies that are looking to expand their footprint or move entirely to a new region, and then highlighting the assets for those companies so that we can bring them here. This is one of those business retention deals that we worked on, $1.5 billion investment in the GM plant out in Wentzville. This is the third largest facility that they have in North America. Very few people realize it. I had a chance to tour this a few weeks ago. It is huge. They have 4,000 employees out there. It is a city unto itself. This is also another great example of the impact that projects like this have far beyond that $1.5 billion. The suppliers for GM, they need to be close by. When these folks are running their trucks and their cars down the assembly line, they need to be able to bring the windshields, the seats, the tires in nonstop. It runs 24 hours a day. So the supply chain becomes a big piece of how we grow this industry sector. Lamar Rucker is the plant executive director. He serves on our board. Advanced manufacturing is one of those key industries that we're focused on in the jobs plan. ICL is an Israeli company. They're located down in South St. Louis City proper. They are building a $500 million, I think I have that number right, $500 million lithium battery plant. It's down by Carondelet Park. When the opportunity arose from the Biden administration to go after some federal funds to build this plant, ICL called us and said, we don't have the capacity to write a grant like this, to build a coalition for something like this. Can you help us? And so they were successful. We were thrilled to be there at the announcement, $500 million going in, and I think they will be ready to go by the start of 2026. The federal government is asking for a lot of these new facilities that address defense issues to be built pretty quick. So they'll be up and running in 2026. Okay, so let's then talk a little bit about these industry sectors a little more broadly. Advanced manufacturing is one of the industry sectors outlined in the jobs plan as a starting point for us with the assets that we have related to that industry sector, whether it's GM or Boeing or an ICL, and then how do we grow that industry sector when you talk about talent or workforce or infrastructure needs that these companies would have. So I'm going to start with the idea of innovation centers and innovation corridors. Is anyone familiar with Cortex? So Cortex has been a great success story thanks to an investment by Washington University, BJC, Danforth Plant Center. You have a campus of innovation, people researching, building, training around the biosciences, just right there off of Forest Park Parkway. The idea is the same here for advanced manufacturing. We won a $25 million grant from the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, one of only 21 metros to be successful in winning those federal dollars. we have developed a hub and spoke model for advanced manufacturing. Our hub is the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Center. It is located right next to Rankin Technical College on the north side of town, and it's down the road from the National Geospatial Agency. Are you familiar with the NGA? So NGA is the mapping agency for the federal government. So this is going to be a training, research, innovation center for advanced manufacturing. Dennis Muhlenberg, who is the former CEO of the Boeing Company, is leading this effort. It is very exciting. He has partners as varied as the Southwestern Illinois College over in Granite City, Rung for Women, which is working with women to provide family-sustaining training and jobs. It's a broad coalition that is working to expand our capacity to grow and retain advanced manufacturing jobs. Ag tech. Oops, did I skip ahead? Ag tech. A next-gen industry sector. There are 7 anchor institutions that came together earlier this year to say, let's formalize the idea of an innovation corridor for ag tech. Again, when you think about the assets that we have here for this industry sector, you have Bayer Crop Science, critically important to hold on to. They need some help. The Danforth Plant Center, world-recognized leader in biosciences research. They now have the capacity to build research facilities, workforce training facilities, help our higher ed universities with curriculum development, and all of this is happening out by the Danforth Plant Center in Creve Coeur, which is out Olive. So again, capitalizing on the assets that we have, organizing those assets, and operating under one plan. We're all doing this together. We don't have Danforth doing one thing, GSL doing something else, WashU doing something else. We are all sitting around the same table trying to solve for the same issue, which is growth. The last industry sector here that I'll talk about is geospatial. Do we all know what geospatial technology is? It's on our phones every day. The National Geospatial Agency was actually founded at the Lewis and Clark expedition. It was the mapping team for that journey. They are building a $2 billion new headquarters west in North St. Louis City. When we won this deal now, I think maybe about 5 years ago, the business leader said, okay, that's great. So now what do we do? How do we capitalize on that? So we have now an innovation district right around the NGA that is focused on geospatial technology. And you have companies like General Dynamics Information Technology, Maxar, Scale AI that are building a significant presence in St. Louis City to be part of the energy that is the NGA. We are also now holding the largest geospatial conference in the country every year, about 3,000 leaders, both in the public sector and private sector, that are coming to St. Louis to talk about geospatial technology. This is what a unified business community can do. If we are all sitting around the same table, solving for the same problems, this is what we can do. No one is off doing their own thing. We are talking about, at scale, how do we grow an industry sector from the ground up? So this is huge. This is huge for the metro. So the urban core, the closest I can get to a dad joke is, you cannot be from a suburb of nowhere. So I live out here just down the road, but if we don't have a vibrant downtown, none of this matters. Everyone has got to feel safe going downtown. We have to have people walking around downtown. We have to have people living downtown, shopping, eating, staying downtown. It's critically important. We have a downtown team. It's a team of about 7 people, I think, that work on everything from relationships with the mayor's office downtown to infrastructure and redesigning of our downtown streets. Little trivia, Tucker Boulevard is wider than Highway 40. So it was built for a population of 1 million, and the city now has $280,000. So redesigning a boulevard like that so that it's more bike ped friendly, really important to talent attraction. So the downtown team, they have a lot to tackle here, but let's talk a little bit about downtown. While we all were devastated that city didn't get a chance to move forward, what an incredible year this has been. And I always take a moment here on this slide to talk about an incredible philanthropic family here in the Metro, the Taylor family. Andy Taylor is our founding chair. He's chair emeritus at Enterprise Mobility. He and his family have said, I want to see this city resurgent, and I'm putting my money where my mouth is. So business leaders, let's get together. He sets the bar really high, and let's go get it. So the investment that they made here in this soccer stadium and in this soccer team, named very purposefully City, is just one of the investments that this family has made. Forest Park would not be what it is without the Taylor family. The Arch would not be what it is without the Taylor family. That company employs 70,000 plus people around the globe. Andy has said, I want the doers. That's all of us. That's you. $100 investment, giving us time to build a focus group on what advanced manufacturing should look like, all the way up to a $5 million investment if you want to make it. All of us are in this together. And he has put out the call. So I always like to give him just a moment there. You need to have people downtown. So we've done a lot of work over the last year bringing the workforce back downtown. We work at Met Square, and I'm pleased to say that the garage is now full. I always have to park on the top floor. That's a great thing. You have to have people eating in restaurants, shopping the retail that is there. We are partnering with the formerly known Go Marathon. It's been rebranded the St. Louis Marathon. The organizers of that race want us to be noted in the same sentence as Boston and New York City marathons. You know, a little thing, but it puts us out there. People begin talking about us as, oh, well, you know, the St. Louis Marathon. Oh, well, you know, I was just in St. Louis because of the soccer. So all of this, you know, kind of begins to bubble up and add up. So a little thing, but we've made a 10-year commitment to this race, and we will be moving those runners in and around different neighborhoods so that the visitors that are coming for a race like this can really see what St. Louis is all about. One of the new capacities that GSL brought with it on day one was a $200 million real estate fund. This is a fund that is making catalytic investments between the Arch and Forest Park. We're either helping a deal get off the ground or we're helping push it over the finish line. So, and I'm sorry, I keep walking in front of there. So these are a couple of the projects that we're working on. We were part of the Butler Brothers redevelopment that's now called the Victor. It's catty corner to the soccer stadium. It's one of the 5 largest buildings downtown. We are now working on the Railway Exchange building. That's the old famous bar. So looking for a developer there. We don't do the development. We're just helping to catalyze that development as it goes along. The real estate fund is based on a project in Cincinnati. They have a $500 million real estate fund that, again, works on catalytic investment downtown. Has anyone been to Cincinnati? It's a fabulous town. Their riverfront is just terrific. And they've been doing it for a while. So $200 million. Okay, so oftentimes when we go through all of these slides, it's onesies and twosies, and it's hard to see it all come together as a whole. So we built out this map so that we can layer and show you exactly what this looks like kind of all together. So again, just to center you, we're at Forest Park over here, we're at the Arch over here. There's Cortex, our innovation district, and that'll serve as kind of our starting point here. Here's our Advanced Manufacturing Innovation District, right next to Rankin Tech. So we talked about the investment going in there. The NGA. Gateway Global is a workforce organization that is training young people and young adults in geospatial technology. So again, just right down the road from the NGA. The Brick Line is an infrastructure project being led by Great Rivers Greenway. This is a 20-mile bike ped network that's going to run from Forest Park to the Arch and north at Fairgrounds Park all the way down to Tower Grove. It's about a $240 million project. We are leading on that with Great Rivers Greenway, asking business leaders to come together to help make it happen, advocating for federal dollars to come into a project like this. This is similar to what they have in Atlanta called the Beltline, which is a 20-mile loop around downtown. This is what the next generation wants. They want to be able to ride their bike to work. It's also an equity play. So people have to be able to get to jobs that are downtown, that are in Cortex. And this is one way that you can get folks to those jobs. And you also need public transit. So MetroLink is looking at a line, again, north to south. We are helping to advocate for those federal dollars. So when you look at this all together, oh, I think I have one more. There we go. Delmar Divine, someone was just talking with me about this morning, that they're in Delmar Divine. Who was that? Anyway, Delmar Divine is a project of Maxine Clark's. She's bringing together nonprofits together under one roof. The bridge is a mixed-use development that we helped get started, again, just up on the north side off of Fountain Park. So when you look at this as a whole, it begins to look significant, doesn't it? There's something happening up there. So I love showing people, you know, when you layer it all together, when you have everybody coming together to say, okay, how do we do this? This is what it looks like. So we're not leading on all of these. These are different organizations that are building these different systems and infrastructure needs and organizations. But what we are doing is convening the leadership together to say, this is our priority, this is what we're doing for the next decade. Does that make sense? Last thing on downtown, which is really a regional issue, is public safety. So this is the most pressing issue that people talk to me about. I'm sure it's right up there for you all. Public safety is critically important if you're going to keep people here and if you're going to bring people here. The mayor, when she came into office during the pandemic, she took an initial start at trying to focus the conversation with a coalition of business leaders and social service leaders that made some good inroads on public safety changes. But when we had our circuit attorney, Kim Gardner, her office was in complete disarray. We had several very tragic incidents that happened under her watch. The business community said, enough, something has to change. And that united voice said to our elected leaders, something has to change. Kim Gardner resigned, if you all remember, and Gabe Gore was appointed by Governor Parson. Gabe comes from the law firm of Dowd Bennett. Ed Dowd is a former U.S. attorney under President Clinton's administration, I believe. And Gabe was an assistant U.S. attorney. So in just the last 6 months, he is reorganizing an office. The business community has coalesced behind him. Some of our larger law firms are providing pro bono paralegal help. Some of our larger employers are providing IT support, auditing support. They are prosecuting cases now for the first time in 3 years. There is a better morale being set at the police department because the police now feel like they are heard. When they arrest somebody, they're going to be prosecuted. It's a huge, huge, huge change. And then kind of back on the regional level, this is obviously critically important as a tactile element, but it's a regional issue. Crime is a regional issue. It impacts all of us. Again, I live right here in St. Charles County. It impacts them. What is happening downtown in North St. Louis County, where crime is most prevalent, it impacts all of us. So we reached out to the East-West Gateway Council of Governments. This is the governing body for our primary electeds in 8 of the 15 counties in the MSA, and said, we'd like you to tackle this issue. So they have engaged a violence reduction center out of the University of Maryland, and they will be coming out with a plan to address homicides Research shows that reducing homicides will, in fact, then reduce all other violent crime underneath. So they're working on a plan that will tackle that issue, and we hope to have something from them in the first quarter of 2024. Okay, kind of watch my time. Okay, a little bit on how we get around the globe. We talked a little bit about Lufthansa earlier, so I won't spend too much time on this, but they sent in a senior team after the flight had been established to meet with leaders in the metro to understand how we were filling these seats so quickly. And just an interesting little anecdote. So I was walking this team around, and we met with the Danforth people because they need to be able to bring researchers in from overseas. We met with Bayer leadership. You got to be able to get your team back to the mothership in less than 3 days, or they're not going to stick around. And we met with members of the Bosnian community. So we are the largest Bosnian community in the United States. 70,000 Bosnians live in St. Louis, and they use this flight to get back to Sarajevo. So we met with this group of small businesses, Bosnian owners, and they said, hey, this is great, we love it, thank you. They buy a lot of tickets, but they said, we need a flight on Saturday from Frankfurt, which is where this flight goes, into Sarajevo, because a lot of us were working all week, we hop on the Lufthansa flight, and then we want to get home. And there is no flight to Sarajevo, apparently, from Frankfurt on Saturday. So let me just paint the picture for you. I have these senior VPs of Lufthansa from Germany sitting on one side of the table, and these small business guys owned restaurants in South St. Louis, Bosnian families, just folks saying, we need a flight. Do you know that they put a flight on from Frankfurt to Sarajevo on Saturdays because of that type of meeting? So I was shocked, quite honestly, but it really speaks to, I think, what the Lufthansa team heard from us through this whole process. This flight matters to this metro. It matters to all of us in this metro. It puts us on the map, and we're backing it up with people on those flights and money in the bank. So it just is just a little story about, again, kind of all of us sitting around the same table talking about these issues can really have a big impact. So just really, really great asset that then factors into the new airport. So Rhonda Ham-Niebrugge, who's the director of the St. Louis Airport, is moving forward with a master plan that's been submitted to the FAA. This is a $3 billion investment. So at the front of my slides, I talked about $2 billion from Boeing. You're now looking at $5 billion in investment in North St. Louis County over the next decade, and this is just the beginning. So you get a little sneak peek at what this is going to look like. The iconic arches will remain. The B terminal southwest will go away, might become a boutique hotel or something like that. We will have a single terminal with gates and concourses running off of that. And for those of you who travel, we'll have an 8,000 car garage up from the 2,000 car garage that's there right now. Highway 70 will be remade. New gates for international travel. She's moving forward. So pretty excited about that. If you've traveled recently, you know that our airport, not so great. Other airports, pretty nifty. We're the only metropolitan area of our size in the country that does not have a new airport or is not building a new airport. So again, when you talk about competing, you got to be able to move people around and make it a nice experience. You just do. I think this is going to be the last thing I'm going to talk about here. Public policy, promoting pro-growth policy in Jefferson City, in Springfield, and in Washington, D.C. Again, it's one of our core capabilities. We have a team that goes after that every single day, and it all starts with relationships. So we brought 20 legislative leaders from Missouri, including the Speaker of the House, the incoming Speaker, the leadership from the Senate, just to talk with our investors about issues that we face, priorities within the business community, and how can we find some common ground here. I had a chance to participate. I will tell you, it was remarkable. There is a lot of commonality here between folks that are representing Nevada, Missouri, and what the business community needs here. It's all about talking and building relationships. And for too long, we just haven't done that. So each side here made a pledge to get together quarterly. Some of these folks have been back already. So again, little anecdote, we had a couple of farmers from Nevada, which is on the western side of the state, and they were all about geospatial technology because of course they have to know how to run their rows straight when they're planting their corn seeds. They got to know what the weather's going to be like coming up. I mean, they rely on that technology. And so they wanted to hear all about geospatial. They came back. They've talked with the NGA leadership. This is where we find commonality. We're not going to agree on everything, but when we open a line of communication, there are places where we're going to overlap and we're going to find some ways to succeed together. I thought I'd take just a minute to talk about then us, because we have several investors here that are in the audience. I think I saw Commerce Bank, Hush, Polsinelli, and Brinkman. I think you all are here maybe today. I saw your name tags. We are a privately funded organization. These are some of our largest investors. And it ranges from an Ameren to a Maryville University. Again, back to Andy Taylor's battle cry of we just want the doers. This is not just civic progress redux. This is a group of civic and business leaders that care about the future of the Metro. They meet every other month to talk about what is going on and provide the strategic direction to us, the professional team down at Met Square. So I just want to say thank you to these folks. Thank you to you all that are in the audience today. My very last slide, if you're not on our newsletter, I would encourage you to sign up. No one's going to solicit you in the newsletter. It's news about what's happening in the Metro. I think it's pretty good. It comes out on Thursdays. We talk about the successes, we talk about the needs. Sometimes in there we'll say, hey, we need you to make a call to the governor's office on issue X. It's informative, so I'd encourage you to sign up. Thank you for pulling out your cameras and get on board. So with that, I think I've come to the end here of my talk. I talk kind of fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about what was up here or anything else on your mind. It can't be that easy. Yeah.
So you mentioned, a GM, suppliers that are located here, and most of the group here is for small businesses. Mm-hmm. How can they get involved and in touch with people to, be involved, to get some of that business, mm-hmm. or to be involved with the businesses mm-hmm. that you're bringing here or trying to grow?
It's a great question. So, how do we involve small businesses in the work that we're doing? So it is not just about Ameren or BJC or Edward Jones. Those are important employers. They are employing the bulk of Missourians here in the Metro, but the future growth of this region is small business. We had 600 small businesses in one room yesterday talking about the importance of their work and their growth over the next decade. We have assembled a roundtable of chambers of commerce. Again, we're not a chamber of commerce anymore. So our local and regional chambers of commerce, our multicultural chambers of commerce have been meeting regularly about once a quarter to understand from us what we are working on and have them reflect back what their members need. So when you talk about, for instance, public policy issues, a lot of those chamber members are retailers. The Wayfair fix, this was an issue that Missouri had where bricks and mortar stores were taxed at a higher rate than their online competitors. So Amazon was not being charged as much as, I don't know, the store on Main Street, Kirkwood. So those folks brought that to us. We took our policy team, went to Jeff City, and we closed that loophole last year. So that's one way that we're working with small businesses. We have an initiative that we call Supply STL. This is identifying small businesses that are trying to grow, to enter procurement pipelines for Ameren or BJC or Enterprise Mobility. What is it that you need for capital, professional development, infrastructure needs, knowledge-based needs. So we're building out a program that will focus heavily on minority and women-owned businesses, but growing these small businesses so that we are buying, hiring, and staying local is what we want our anchors to do. So that's another way that we're trying to tackle small business issues.
By the way, great presentation. I don't know if anybody was able to, they had all the chambers together as a hotel.
Yeah.
And what you did in an hour was impressive.
Were you there?
I was there.
Oh, terrific. Okay.
Nice, but this was phenomenal. Any update on 39 doors? I know they talk about a lot of it, but you guys involved in all 39 doors and the people organizing the science.
Yes, so we are one of the 7 anchor institutions that provide the initial seed funding for that. So 39 North, they have now incorporated as a nonprofit organization. That they've hired an executive director, Emily Loza Bush, who was formerly with Arch Grants. So they are off and running, and they have a map now of what that 600-acre campus will look like. And she's starting to prioritize, research facilities, workforce needs, other real estate needs, infrastructure needs, and the like. So yeah, they're off to the races, for sure.
Oh, can you speak to attracting and retaining the young generation? Like, what specifically are you thinking about making sure we're keeping their talent that's here or attracting them into that school?
It's a team effort. So I think quality of life is big for that generation. I have a 27, 25, and 23-year-old, so they want to live somewhere that's cool. Only one of mine lives here. So, projects like the Brick Line matter. When you talk about small businesses, a focus on our main streets and making sure that there's a vibrancy there, like on South Grand, which is a main street, becomes really important. So we met with that group to say, what do you need to grow and sustain those small businesses that you have? They have some public safety issues and infrastructure issues there. You have to encourage your higher eds to encourage their students to stay here. So Andrew Martin, who's the new chancellor at Washington University, is a huge civic booster. They have turned their career guidance center around from taking people out to Wall Street for financial services jobs when they graduate to walking around Edward Jones and Stifel's campuses instead. So it's a little bit of a mindset. You want those graduates to stay here. The other place where we've really been doing some work is with the international community. So the International Institute is the organization that is bringing our immigrant communities together and providing the wraparound services that they need to get established in the community. 1 year ago, when the U.S. military pulled out of Afghanistan, some of those families that were helping the military were left behind. We stepped up, the International Institute stepped up and said, we want them here. And so we brought 1,000 Afghans to St. Louis. They now have a community center. They have a Chamber of Commerce that was there yesterday. The business community helped find them housing, jobs, training, and the like. So the immigrant community is a big piece of that potential growth. But it's a challenge. You can do all the workforce training that you want, but if you don't have people that are sitting in the seats, it's all for naught. So population growth, it's a biggie for us. And it's one of the metrics that we'll be looking at on the STL Progress website as we go through the next decade. It's a great question. Yeah.
This is probably a difficult, maybe not popular question, but you discussed the crime,
Yeah.
being addressed at Shive all four, specifically North St. Louis, but you also showed on the map we're extending MetroLink up into St. Louis. Is there any concern that that's just going to create an easily usable pipeline for that problem to move and spread into other parts of the city?
I think that's a fair question, but we don't have a Metrolink line now, and we have crime running across different jurisdictions because, of course, nobody is paying attention at where St. Louis City starts and where St. Louis County starts if you're running from the police. So I don't know that Metrolink is a conduit to crime. Metrolink has made some good efforts to reduce the public safety issues that they have on their current trains. The business community stepped up to help with that, so there were no turnstiles on any of the platforms that Metrolink had. It was designed like that originally, very intentionally, and we've just found it not to be the best way to move forward. So the St. Louis business community stepped up with some private dollars to augment public dollars to build turnstiles, which are coming online in the next few years. I mean, you have to be able to move people around to get to jobs. From our vantage point, we believe that a job is the best social service program that you can have. And so people have to be able to get to these jobs that are downtown, and the Metrolink line is the best way to do it. So it's challenging. You know, Metrolink has had some challenges, but it's not a reason to not do that. You have to get at the core of that because people have got to be able to move around.
There's only one of them, right?
Yeah.
And I understand you have a great message. What could we do as a group to help amplify this process? One or two things, ideas do we have?
Thank you for asking that question. I would sign up for the newsletter, and I would share that news around. So, you know, when you're at church, when you're out with friends, you know, note what is good happening in the metro. I would also tell you to call us. You know, call me. I'm on the website, and I think I asked you to call me actually, didn't I, John? So, you know, call me when you have things that you're seeing. There you go. We like good news and we like bad news. Again, we've only been doing this for 3 years, so we're still building the plane in midair. If you see something and you're like, why are they doing that? Call. If you see something and you're like, wow, I'm so glad they did that. Call. I mean, the more we can have input from you, I'm not a business person, so I don't know how to grow a business. I'm relying on you to tell me what you need. So that's two ways, I guess. The third way is come and sit around the table. You can do that for $100. Come and sit around the table like you're doing here and help us solve these issues that we face for decades. Decades. It's hard work, it's fun work, it's gratifying work, but it takes all of us. And so think about it in 3 parts. Advocate with your friends, participate by bringing some of yourself to this work. Those are a couple of ways that you can really, really have an impact on what we're doing. What you want me to do there?
That was awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So the newsletter is one that I won't miss. Dave Schmid from Parkside, who recommended that we bring Margaret in today, told me about that, and I found the newsletter out on their site and signed up. It's fantastic. It's everything from what's going on down at Ballpark Village to festivals in the area to what's going on with companies, big companies, small companies moving into the area. It's just a really great source of information. There are a few that I just won't miss, and that's one of them. So thank you, Margaret. Great presentation. Okay, so Ramondo, do you want to do us a favor and come up here and take a picture of the crowd?
Change lenses.
Oh, you're good. Jace, you want to grab your phone while we're up here? Okay, so we're going to put this on social media. The standing joke is if you're in the witness protection program or a criminal, just duck your head. And if you don't want to be on social media, just duck your head. But we like to put this out to the group so everybody can see what it is that we've got going on here and spread the word. Come on up. Come on up. You've got the big lens. Ramondo Davis, everyone.
everybody smile and don't blink. That's my event photographer joke. I'll take a couple. That should do it. Thank you.
Okay, so our next event, so this is our last official event of this year. The sponsors are getting together on the 21st to plan 2024. So it's real important that we have those feedback forms that are on your tables. If you could take just a minute to fill out as much of that as you can, that gives us an idea of what topics you want to see, what you want to hear about, what's going on in your world, and everything along those lines. Our next event is going to be January 12th. So we're done for 2023, but January 12th of 2024, we'll be back here. It's the second Friday of the month, it always is. And we'll be back here, topic to be announced, but we're working on that at the 21st meeting so that we get some other great topics here. Other than that, please recycle and throw your trash away. There are recycle bins on the side here. And then if you could return your name badges to the little box at the back, we would really appreciate it. Other than that, we really appreciate you being here. Thanks for making this all possible, and we hope you have a great, great, great weekend. Thanks, everyone.